Bangkok, the 5th of July, 2017. The morning is so quiet you can almost hear the air conditioner breathing behind tall walls. In the workroom, sunlight slips through the curtain, thin as mist. On the bed behind him, a young woman is still asleep, peaceful, as if this is just another harmless day. But at the desk, a young man sits motionless in front of a laptop, eyes dry from a sleepless night, hands still moving like a habit carved into the body. In real life, he is Alexandre Cazes, 25, Canadian. Online, he is Alpha02, a name that makes an entire global black market bow its head. On the screen, numbers jump like the heartbeat of an invisible monster. Deals happen in silence, faster than food delivery, cold as a spreadsheet. But right now, time is not on his side. In exactly 23 minutes, one final transaction will close, and the door of freedom will start to slam shut. Not because of gunfire, not because of betrayal, but because of something painfully human. A careless routine. An old email address forgotten inside the shadows of metadata, Pimp Alex 91 Hotmail. Some empires collapse from bombs. Some collapse from ambition. His empire, the one that swallowed thousands of lives, begins to crack from a single small line of text. And outside, in the early Bangkok sun, footsteps are already coming closer, quiet, precise, leaving him no chance to start over. In the next few minutes, I want you to stay until the end, not for numbers, but for the people trapped behind them. I promise you three things. Three pieces that will fit together into a fall so hard it leaves you silent. First, I will take you from a very small beginning, a quiet Canadian kid alone with a screen, to the moment he builds an empire that makes the world shiver. Not with guns, not with a gang, but with intellect, cold discipline, and a sick dream, turning crime into something you can order like a product online. You will see how a black market is built like a business, how it runs, how it pulls people in like air, and why it grows so fast no one can breathe in time. Second, I will not let this story become only a chase between police and hackers, because on the other side of every transaction is a home gone quiet, a dinner table missing one seat, parents staring at a photo and not knowing who to blame, the world, fate, or themselves. We will talk about victims as real human beings with names, ages, ordinary dreams, and a single click that stole everything. And third, I will tell you about the trap that brings the whole empire down, not with violence, but with a moment that looks like kindness. One soft second, one human reflex, and it becomes the lock that seals the fate of a man who thought he was a ghost. If you watch to the end, you will be shocked by how brutally simple the ending is. And after that, you may look at the phone in your hand a little differently. When Silk Road was taken down, the world exhaled like a door to hell had been shut. Headlines called it a victory for justice. People believed the darkness had been put out. But behind those celebratory lines, one cold truth stayed on the table. Demand did not die. It only changed shape, changed names, and found somewhere else to breathe. In small rooms, where a student scrolls after school, or an exhausted adult wants to escape a long night, no one thinks they are touching a global pipeline. They think they are taking a shortcut, and those shortcuts, added together, become a highway. You can arrest sellers, but you cannot arrest hunger inside people. Hunger for money, hunger for numbness, hunger to run away. And where there is demand, someone will supply it. Next time, smarter, cleaner, operating like a real company. The old gangs fought for street corners. The new generation only needs servers, encryption, and a design attractive enough to feel safe. AlphaBay appears at exactly that moment, like a shopping mall built in the dark. It does not look like a messy criminal den. It looks like a terrifyingly familiar store. Clear categories, clean visuals, star ratings, customer feedback, dispute resolution, escrow-like protection to create comfort. Everything is designed so an ordinary person can step in without feeling like they are stepping into crime. And that is what makes the world more dangerous. Crime gets optimized, packaged as an experience, made smooth, fast, and convenient, like a service. When everything becomes convenient, conscience erodes little by little. A click replaces a meeting. A sealed package replaces a dark street corner, and crime stops being something you go looking for. It starts coming to you, neat and quiet, like a delivery at your door. And every time that door opens, the darkness takes one more step into real life. If you want to understand how a human being can sit in a closed room and control an entire world of destruction, you have to go back to where it begins. Not in the dark web, but in ordinary days in Canada. Alexandre Cazes grows up as a quiet kid, always out of rhythm with the crowd. At school, there are looks of contempt, jokes that sound harmless but slice like glass. Others laugh and forget. He remembers and learns to shrink himself so he will not get hurt again. At home, his parents see a good child, not much trouble, always alone in his room. Montreal winters are long and cold, windows fogged, the room lit by a warm lamp and the steady hum of a computer fan. They think it is a harmless hobby. They do not know that every night he sits at the screen not only to learn, but to find a place where he is not judged by appearance, not measured by popularity, not crushed by laughter. Then he meets the internet. A door opens where no one asks how tall you are. No one cares if you fit in. There is only ability. You type right, you win. You fail, you learn. Every line of code that works feels like someone finally touching his shoulder and saying, "You matter." Other kids chase validation from friends, classrooms, parties. Cazes chases validation from words on a screen. Cold but clear, quiet but powerful. And here, an invisible transformation happens. In real life, he can be ignored. But in the digital world, he can become anyone. A name, a handle, an identity without shame, without pain, without ridicule. When he starts receiving respect, even from strangers on forums, it feels like the first deep breath, like standing upright for the first time. Online power arrives softly, like medicine. Then it grows stronger, like an addiction. Every time he controls a system, every time he beats a barrier, he feels taller than real life. But addiction always demands a stronger dose. From wanting to be good, to needing to be above others. From wanting to be seen, to wanting to be feared. And when someone becomes addicted to recognition through power, they start trading away the human part of themselves just to keep that feeling, even if deep inside they were once only a kid who wanted to be treated with kindness. AlphaBay does not win with violence. It wins with familiarity. When people enter the homepage, they do not see danger. They see a clean interface, simple and easy to understand, exactly like the shopping sites they have used for years. Clear categories, drugs, data, documents, attack tools, weapons, a search bar, images, detailed descriptions, as if someone is selling a jacket. Then what keeps people there is not curiosity anymore, but a false sense of trust. Every vendor has a reputation score, ratings, customer reviews, praise for discreet packaging, fast delivery, polite replies, complaints about delays, weak quality, unprofessional service. And when you read those lines, the human brain does something terrifying. It turns crime into consumer experience. It makes you forget that behind fast delivery is a deadly package. Behind trusted seller is a chain of broken lives. AlphaBay also uses escrow-like protection so buyers feel safe. If there is a dispute, there is a place to complain, someone to arbitrate, internal rules. And when everything is organized like a company, people start excusing themselves. It is just a transaction. I am just a customer. Responsibility belongs to someone else. Convenience erases morality softly, the way rain slowly wears down stone. The most dangerous part is speed. A street gang needs time to find customers. AlphaBay needs one click to gain a customer in any country. It spreads through forum recommendations, vendor rankings, late-night scrolling habits. And when crime becomes as easy as buying an item, it spreads faster than fear, faster than regret. By the time someone realizes where they are standing, the door has already closed behind them. Imagine a student in a cramped rental room, traffic noise outside, and unnamed emptiness inside. No one to talk to, no one to meet, only scrolling and choosing. A sense of control comes from pressing buy, from seeing order confirmed, from customer support messages that sound like a decent store. It feels like a lullaby telling you everything is fine. But when the package arrives, it brings more than the product. It brings a new habit, a rope pulling you farther away from yourself. Until one day, your family is left with only silence and the question why. On AlphaBay, each click is just a status line. Paid, shipping, completed. But in real life, each line can be a heartbeat turning off, a family splitting apart without goodbye. There is a young woman who just left home for school. In her dorm room, her mother's winter coat still hangs on the wall. She is curious. She wants to try. She believes she can control it. The package arrives fast like any online order. No one sees, no one asks. Just her alone, and a dose too strong. The next morning, her roommate knocks and hears nothing. Police arrive. The room feels like sound has been drained out. On the desk, there is still a cup of water, open notebooks, and a phone with an unfinished apology message never sent. It sits there like an ending no one expected. Somewhere else, a family is eating dinner. Parents talk about tuition, work, ordinary things. Then, one child starts changing, tired eyes, quieter voice, asking for more money. They think it is stress. They try to believe it is a phase. Then the truth arrives with a call before dawn, and a mother's crying sounds like someone squeezing her throat. The next day, they receive a few belongings in a plastic bag, a shirt, shoes, a cold paper listing the cause. In the kitchen, the rice still has warmth, but the table is missing one seat, as if it is still waiting for someone who will never return. And some orders do not kill with chemicals, but with violence. A gun hidden in a shipping box, passing through delivery routes like a gift. It appears in an alley, in a robbery, in a moment of rage. The person who falls knows nothing about the dark web. They only know they will not make it home, will not hug their child, will not tell their wife that today he planned to come back early. That is the cruelest part. On the screen, it is a transaction. In real life, it is a human life. One order equals one life. While AlphaBay grows like a storm, no one can stop. In Europe, there are people doing work that is both cold and heavy. They are not only sitting in meetings and staring at maps, they have to step into the darkness they hate, to understand it from inside. In the Netherlands, police secretly take control of Hansa, a rival market, but they do not shut it down immediately. They keep it alive, like holding a small flame in your hand without letting it spread. Every day they read messages from drug dealers, watch bargaining over death, solve disputes like customer service, and collect evidence in silence. Some nights they go home and wash their hands for a long time, because the dirt is not on the skin, it is in the mind. Inside a secure room, screens glow all night, coffee turns cold, and typing sounds like rain. On the other side of the world, a mother holds her child's photo. Here, an investigator tries to turn that grief into a chain of data strong enough to pull the guilty into the light. They understand one thing: if you only smash one market, the rest scatter and build another. To win, you have to guide the flow into the net you already placed. Their plan is ruthless in a practical way. When AlphaBay falls, hundreds of thousands of users will panic and search for a new shelter. They will run to Hansa, the place that feels safest. A mass-moving day for criminals. Only the new house already has an owner, and the owner is police. That becomes the foundation for Operation Bayonet, a campaign not only to catch one man, but to cut the entire ecosystem. Because to catch criminals in the modern era, you have to think like criminals, be as patient as they are, and carry the dark part so others can live in the light. And when the trap closes, it will happen in one morning, so fast that even a man calling himself a ghost will not understand why he has been seen. The scariest thing in this story is not encryption, not where the servers sit, but a mistake from everyday life. In the early days, when everything was small, when Cazes still believed he was only building a private playground, the system sent technical emails for testing, confirming, operating, and inside those harmless emails were what investigators call traces, header, metadata, information hidden in parts normal people never look at. One leak is enough. one small line left behind. An old email address used by habit. pimpalex91 hotmail. It sounds like a joke, but to investigators, it is a thread. When you have a thread, you pull. You pull old usernames used again. You pull registrations with matching patterns. You pull history, habits, writing style, timing. Scattered pieces suddenly lock together like a picture uncovered from behind a curtain. And here's the truth that should make even the most confident person feel cold. The greatest enemy of security is not hackers, not police. The greatest enemy is habit, laziness to change. The belief you are too smart to repeat an old mistake. Cazes can build high walls, but he is still human. He still does things on autopilot, like unlocking a phone every day without thinking who might be watching. From one small trace, they build a chain of identity. Not magic, only patience. And when the chain is complete, the ghost begins to take shape. The king of the dark web, for the first time, becomes a name that can be spoken in the light. Bangkok is not only his hiding place, it is where his ego grows larger than fear. When someone lives behind anonymity long enough, the most dangerous thing is not exposure, but the feeling that they deserve to enjoy. And enjoyment always leaves traces. You can hide your name online, but you cannot buy a luxurious life without creating paperwork. Every time you rent or buy a better home, there is a contract. Every transfer leaves a record. Every expensive item crossing borders creates declarations. Every visit to an elite venue meets cameras. Every phone that turns on in the night creates tower signals. Every trip across the city becomes a route. These things are not loud, not explosive, but they remain. Like footprints on wet sand, the more you walk, the clearer they become. That is the cruel paradox. He builds his empire by becoming a ghost, but he lives like a man who wants to be seen. A girlfriend thinks he is a businessman. Neighbors think he is a successful foreigner. People around him see a glossy life and never imagine behind the social smiles is a marketplace for destruction. That display cracks the wall of anonymity day by day. Because once investigators already have a thread from the email, every invoice, every document, every movement habit becomes another piece. Like when you learn someone's name, you suddenly start noticing them everywhere, in places you never paid attention to before. In the final weeks, collapse feels like distant thunder. No one says it aloud, but everyone senses it. He keeps living as if normal, keeps telling himself he is safe. But safety is just a story he tells himself. While outside, people are moving closer, slowly, carefully, with certainty. Each step makes the air around him heavier. Bangkok stays sunny, but darkness is already standing at his door. The night before, in short messages, his trusted lieutenant tries to pull him back to reality. Heat is rising, packages intercepted, vendors arrested, forums buzzing like a disturbed hive. It is the kind of warning insiders recognize instantly. But Alexandre Cazes has lived too long inside the feeling of being untouchable. He replies coldly that everything is fine, that his system cannot be touched. When someone wins for too long, they stop hearing warnings. They only hear the sound of their own confidence. On the morning of the 5th of July, 2017, Bangkok wakes up like any other day. Light sun, growing traffic, engines far away, mixing with birds. Inside the gated house, Cazes does exactly what he always does. Washes up, drinks coffee, checks, devices, opens the laptop. The admin dashboard appears like a cockpit. Orders, disputes, accounts, numbers running steadily. He looks at it with the eyes of a man who believes he controls the world and tells himself again that he is a ghost. Then the moment arrives. A crash outside the gate, loud enough to break the calm, real enough to avoid suspicion. A car pulls in, the front slightly dented. A woman steps out, looking shaken, confused, like a real accident. In one deeply human second, Cazes walks out, not to escape, not to check security, but to help. Because no matter who he is online, in real life, he still sees someone in trouble, and his first reflex is to step closer. Only a few steps later, the survival instinct of a man trained by paranoia finally wakes up. Something is wrong. The silence is too perfect. The faces around are too calm. People hold phones but do not film, standing in positions like rehearsed. His heart punches. He spins and runs. The wealthy boss vanishes, replaced by a man terrified of losing everything. He races back to the door with one thought: touch the laptop, close the data door, wipe the traces. If he makes it, he can turn that entire world into ashes. Through the window, he sees the screen still lit. Only meters now, only steps. But the trap closes. A hard tackle to the concrete, breath crushed, skin burning from friction, and the sound of metal locking around his wrists colder than the crash outside. He lies there looking toward the workroom as if staring at a second life being torn away. An empire that ran on a few clicks is now locked by handcuffs, and it began from a moment of softness, a second of kindness he can no longer afford. When people hear a dark web king is arrested, the first question is money. How much Bitcoin? How many cars? How many houses? But for investigators, the most valuable thing is not in safes. It is in fragile things. Data files, messages, transaction history, things that could vanish like smoke if the machine goes dark at the wrong time. Because AlphaBay is not only a market, it is a living map of global crime. Every user account is a door. Every vendor profile is a network. Every message is a scene. Sometimes bargaining, sometimes threats, sometimes fake apologies after a bad shipment, but always leading to one truth. Someone is destroyed so someone else can profit. When they keep the data, they keep the truth. They see who buys, who sells, who repeats patterns, who packages along which routes, who delivers where, who talks to whom. The underwater strings suddenly surface. And when you pull one string, it is not only one person who falls. An entire chain trembles. The fallout spreads like dominoes. A small arrest in one city, a raid at a postal hub, a vendor dragged from an apartment, a courier stopped at a border. People who believe they were invisible wake up in fear, realizing the shield they trusted has been unlocked, not only by technology, but by their own words, their habits, the addresses they used again and again. And in the center of it all, Cazes' power collapses in the quietest way, not with gunshots, not with screams, but with a screen turning off. An account locked, a network exposed. What made him king was not strength, but secrecy. When secrecy is taken away, he has nothing left to rule. Only a human being, stripped bare, facing consequences he once treated like numbers. And somewhere, in homes that lost children, at dinner tables missing one seat, the truth finally begins to find its way back. This story ends, but the cold feeling does not. Because the fear is not one name, it is a rule. Technology is not good or evil. It only amplifies people. When people want good, it pushes good farther. But when people crave money, power, escape, it pushes darkness faster, deeper, and quieter. Today, AlphaBay falls. Tomorrow, another name may rise. Another interface. Another layer of encryption. Another person who was once a lonely kid, who once wanted to be seen, who turned into someone they no longer recognize. And in that cycle, victims are always the most ordinary people. Families who never knew they were dragged into an invisible war. Young people who think it is only once. Workers who leave early believing they will come home for dinner. The final lesson is cruel because it is so small. A billion-dollar empire can break from an old email, from a habit that refuses to change. And the decisive moment can come from something deeply human, a reflex to help someone who looks in trouble. In the real world, kindness is the most beautiful thing. But in the world he built, kindness becomes the crack where the trap closes. If you made it this far, leave a comment. Do you think Alexandre Cazes was a criminal genius? Or just a man swallowed by ego and the addiction to power? And if you want more stories about digital empires collapsing from one tiny mistake, subscribe. Because sometimes what changes a life begins with one line of text the owner believed no one would ever see.